The discourse around Justin Herbert's cooked, and I don't like it. So the Los Angeles Chargers just lost to the Green Bay Packers. They had multiple chances to potentially win this game and put it away, and a multitude of factors stopped them from doing so. The coaching, players dropping balls, players slipping on the turf.
Yeah.
A bunch of things. And in this particular instance, I say, it's not Justin Herbert's fault. He objectively did everything he could to win this game. He was near perfect, the highest graded quarterback on PFF for the week. When you watch the tape back, obviously Quentin Johnston should have caught that ball. Austin Eckler shouldn't have split.
Boy, fucking sucks.
Keenan Allen could have caught that touchdown. But why can't the discourse around Justin Herbert be that Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback who plays on one of the worst organizations in the NFL in terms of luck and just some of their front office decisions? Because the Chargers, we know all our lifetime they've been unlucky. They didn't have any luck with Drew Brees, not with P. River, not having any with Justin Herbert. We can acknowledge that. And we can also acknowledge the fact that Justin Herbert isn't in the tier with Mahomes, with Burrow, with Lamar, with, at this point, Jalen Hurts, with Josh Allen, I guess. Josh Allen probably. Because he hasn't done it in meaningful games. And that's okay. That doesn't make me say Justin Herbert isn't a great quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. But he is outside of that tier of players because due to many circumstances, the coaching, the defense, the offensive players not catching balls, and at certain times him. Many reasons, he hasn't had the chance really to do anything meaningful besides last year in the playoffs where he and his squad, because he is a part of the team, they blew a 27-7 lead at halftime. So I can't say, you have people last night who were saying, oh, Mahomes' receivers didn't catch a ball, so we're going to give Mahomes a pass. But when it happens to Herbert, we have to shit on him. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with shitting on Herbert. Like I said, this game isn't on him. But there's levels to this stuff. Justin Herbert isn't Mahomes. Mahomes is a 2-time Super Bowl fucking MVP. Like Mahomes is different than everyone else. But it just bothers me that there is no middle ground with this guy, Justin Herbert. It's either he's elite, he's the second best quarterback in the league, he's right behind Mahomes, he could do everything Mahomes has, give him a team and watch what happens, he'll be the best in the league, or it's Justin Herbert is a known choker, he'll never win anything meaningful, blah, 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 blah. Why can't it just be a middle ground with Justin Herbert that says Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback who has talent like no one else, honestly. He's one of, if not the most talented guy in the league at the quarterback position. But he can't be ranked with those other guys who have won playoff games, who have Super Bowl appearances, who have MVPs. He can't be in that conversation with those guys right now. That every other guy, Lamar Jackson, who's won an MVP and has actually won a playoff game, we still struggle to put in that conversation.
Well, we as in football discourse,
right.
Yes.
I mean, I don't mean you guys. I just mean football discourse in general. We struggle to put Lamar Jackson in that conversation. We struggle to put Jalen Hurts in that conversation, who was just second in MVP and showed up on the biggest stage.
Yeah, which also doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I don't know how people...
He showed up on the biggest stage.
You gave Jalen Hurts flack, though.
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't give him flack. I just had him ranked below a few guys.
That was wild.
I just had him ranked below a few guys. I didn't really give him flack, but the thing is, Jalen Hurts, yes, he's had that opportunity because of the team he plays on, and Justin Herbert hasn't had that opportunity, and that's okay. Maybe he will have that opportunity, maybe he won't, but we just can't rank him with the guys who have had that opportunity and have shown up on that stage. It just doesn't work because for other guys, we don't do that.
Okay.
Look at a guy like LeBron, for example. I know it's a different sport, but this is just sports discourse in general. LeBron, it's extreme because of who he was and the expectations on him. But just in general, if you're with me, LeBron James, we didn't give LeBron any credit until he won. any credit. And I'm not saying Justin Herbert has to win a Super Bowl, go 17-0, be the unanimous MVP. I'm not saying that.
Win a playoff game.
Win a playoff game. Win a playoff game.
Or don't blow a 27-point lead in a playoff game.
Right, win a playoff game.
So, I
acknowledge the fact that he's great.
Like, I understand what you're getting at. I get all that. And I texted in the chat, obviously prior to the podcast, and you guys don't see all that, but I texted he's the second most talented quarterback in the NFL, which I firmly believe. I don't think there's any doubt. But in the same respects, I understand where you're coming from, and I get all that. But when you mentioned all those quarterbacks, they also have a team around them that aids them when they don't play at their best. Like, except for maybe Josh Allen. Because we could have the conversation that Buffalo has no other way of winning except Josh Allen being fucking Superman.
We've said that before,
which is the truth. And that's what makes Josh Allen so special, but that's also the downfall of Josh Allen because that's all he knows.
But you look at these other teams. You look at, Josh Allen, the Bills were nothing before Josh Allen. You look at the Bengals. Yes, they're a great team. They've become a great team over the past few years.
When they made the Super Bowl, that was a lot of their defense.
Their team building has been impeccable over the years, but we have to mention the fact that the Bengals were nothing before Joe Burrow.
For sure.
You look at the Ravens. The Ravens, obviously, they're not really a dynasty, but the Ravens, in terms of they've been good our whole lives.
Yes,
the
1,000%.
But a guy like Lamar Jackson did something that's never been done before. He won a unanimous MVP. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's an accolade that can't be understated. You know, and Justin Herbert just hasn't done any of that. And again, I'm not saying it's entirely his fault. Like, we can acknowledge the fact that Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback. He doesn't have the accolades and, hasn't performed in the big stage like some of the other guys have, just because he hasn't had the opportunity to perform on the big stage, which, again, like my original point, some of it, most of it, is the coaching, the defense, guys dropping passes, all that stuff. But part of it is, I watched 3 times in the beginning of this year him have a chance to win games, and he didn't come through. And the guys on the other side of the spectrum were saying, oh, it's not his fault, it's not his fault, it's not his fault, when he could have won the game. Versus the Dolphins, he had a chance to win the game. Versus the Titans, it was disgusting in week 2. It was disgusting what he did when he had a chance to win the game.
I agree.
It was disgusting. The only time we've seen him on a big stage, actually no, because 2 years ago he played
one playoff
into the playoffs versus the Raiders, where they lost, but he was elite in that one too.
Yeah,
he was insane. Game-winning drives, 4th and 13 throw. So I'll give him that one. That was a big stage where he did show up. But you look at the only time a bigger stage, the playoffs, he blew a 27-7 lead. And again, that's not all his fault. They didn't have a run game going. We talked about that, very, very, very much. We talked about that game.
Yeah, we did.
And it was a multitude of things were the reason they blew that lead. But any quarterback blowing a 27-7 lead, they're going to get flack.
You have to.
That's how sports analysis works.
The other thing about sports analysis is like you said, your circumstances do matter. Like, it's optics. It's how the situation looks. And if you're not, at the end of the day, especially quarterbacks in the NFL, what do we praise them for most is elevating the team around them. I'm not saying Herbert's not doing that. I'm not saying he's not doing everything he can, but like, it's just a shitty situation to be in. We also say that a lot in sports. Some guys are just in shitty situations. Herbert is a guy in a shitty situation where his reputation is going to suffer because of his circumstances.
Yeah.
And just on a surface
and that's how it goes.
Level,
that's how it works.
Right. And just on a surface level, when we talk about a quarterback elevating his team, what's the first thing we look to?
Wins.
Right. We look at a guy
the
like...
The best quarterback stat is wins.
Right.
Yeah. That's point blank,
and whether
period.
it's
I agree.
fair or not isn't up for us to determine. That's just the way things are done. That's the way things have been done forever. Again, I mentioned a guy like LeBron, who, again, him and Justin Herbert don't belong in the same conversation, but you guys get what I'm putting down there. We didn't...
If someone like him doesn't get the credit he deserves...
Right.
Then why the fuck should Justin Herbert?
And that's why I'm just upset about it, because after this game, where again I can acknowledge the fact that this one wasn't on him. He played nearly perfect. Everyone's coming out of the woodworks. See, this is why Justin Herbert is the second best quarterback in the NFL. He was so good in this game and they lost. We have to respect Justin Herbert. Like, no. We do.
Well, you
have to
can- yeah, you can respect
but
Justin
we can
Herbert, yeah,
respect him
exactly.
without being outlandish about
Exactly.
it.
I'm just not so sure that he's not in the worst situation in the entire NFL. Like, that's my thing. Like, I genuinely believe he is in one of the 5 worst situations in the entire NFL, given that he has arguably the worst coach in the NFL.
Right.
Which, you're a defensive-minded coach that can't get your side of the ball correct at the current moment.
Right.
You have the worst defense in the NFL. They're the worst against the best and the best against the worst. So, like, their stats may look like even a semblance better than being the worst defense in the league, but when they play good teams, they are atrocious.
Right.
And then you have that worst head coach. You have no semblance of a running game whatsoever. Your number 2 receiver is injured. Your fucking team botched your draft pick, so that dude is ass. And instead of having potentially Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison, who have both already proven that they're better than Quentin Johnston, might I add. And I'm not saying Justin Herbert goes without fault. All the things you've stated are true, like, no doubt. But I'm not so sure that we can't give him a pass given the situation when it is this bad. If he had a little bit more around him, and he had one of those things going right, like, if you look at all those quarterbacks you listed, there's a bunch of things that are going correct with those situations. Like, Joe Burrow has arguably the best trio of receivers in the entire NFL. He has Joe Mixon behind him. He has a defense that's actually been successful in the playoffs for him, which helped him get to the Super Bowl. He did not have a great playoff run, and that's what people forget. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill when he won his first Super Bowl. Andy Reid, who you could argue is the greatest offensive mind in NFL history.
So can I counter that?
Right. Yeah.
So I agree with what you're saying. The other guys who we have ahead of him have more help, but also those other guys have performed in the
Right.
high leverage situations that they've been in that Justin Herbert hasn't had the opportunity to be in. Because you look at a guy like Tua. Tua's in a better situation than Justin Herbert. Tua's counting stats this season are better than Justin Herbert's. Are we going to say Tua's better than Justin Herbert? No. Are we going to say Brock Purdy's better than Justin Herbert? No. So 2 things could be true. Justin Herbert could be in the worst situation out of the group, but also because of that, it's a cause and effect thing. Because of that, he hasn't performed like the other guys have, like a Joe Burrow, like a Pat Mahomes, like even a Josh Allen. We've seen Josh Allen in playoff moments show up.
Yeah.
When the team needed Josh Allen the most, we've seen him show up in a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen that with Justin Herbert, and that's okay. That's okay. He's still young. Like, there's not a doubt in my
Only
mind.
his 4th season.
Right. There's not a doubt in my mind that
5th
Justin
season.
Herbert will be back in the playoffs at some point before it's all said and
I
done.
fucking hope so.
I agree with Chris because when you're talking about the best of the best, like, I can't put you. But I can't put you up there based on what I think I'm going to see.
Yeah.
It has to be
When you're
based on
talking
what
about
I've
the
seen.
best of the best, there's no passes.
100%.
Like,
100%.
Justin Herbert, in a microscope, when we're just talking about Justin Herbert, gets a pass because of some of the things that have gone on around him. But when we're talking about Justin Herbert in comparison to other guys who are at the top of the top, who we don't give a pass to, then
So
no.
I'd say he gets a pass, not gets a pass, but it'll make sense. When you're talking about guys like Tua, Dak Prescott, like, he can be compared with those guys, that's fine. But when you're talking about Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, like you said, guys who have done things, won MVPs, won Super Bowls, you can't been to Super Bowls because even getting to the Super Bowl is nearly impossible in the NFL. It seems like
winning is everything. That's
winning
why
is
we
everything.
regard Joe Burrow.
Winning is exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't
So
have an MVP, nor has he won a Super Bowl, but he's had an elite playoff run.
Yeah.
He's strung together 3 games where it matters the absolute most and made it to the Super Bowl, made it to the big dance.
He wasn't phenomenal, but he had his moments. He had the moments that mattered.
Right.
he went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. Like, and I'm not a guy who, like, even when we talk about basketball, it's definitely more prevalent in basketball discourse because basketball discourse is completely cooked. Football, you could at least have some conversations.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why I bring this to attention, because I think the Herbert stuff is just the nastiest shit, the nastiest conversation in all of football right now, in all of football discourse, in all these podcasts, and all this shit. But in basketball, like, I honestly just lost my entire train of thought. I'm not gonna lie. Whatever.
No, I get what
saying.
you're saying. I understand, and I get where we're at with the whole Justin Herbert thing. I want them to make the playoffs so fucking bad. But
like
they
I
won't.
value winning, but I also can acknowledge the fact that there are sometimes outside circumstances that stop guys from winning. But when I'm comparing the best of the best, it's picking hairs, and guys who I've seen when everyone in the world is watching, and especially in terms of guys who've played in Super Bowls and shown up when everyone in the world is watching.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen them show up versus a guy who, again, in his only playoff game blew a 27-7 lead. It's hard to have. And I'm not, I don't even think it should be a conversation of, Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert, even Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert. I don't even think those should be conversaation. I don't think Justin
totally
Herbert is
agree
in
with you.
that tier with those guys right now.
See,
I'm
that's
cool with
where I
Justin Herbert
disagree.
being the start of the second tier, but when there's guys who have hardware and who have moments when it matters the most, that matters to me.
But I also don't think Jalen Hurts, no disrespect to Hurts, no disrespect to some of these quarterbacks, they're not in the same tiers. Mahomes is tier one.
Mahomes is in tier of his own.
Mahomes is
Absolutely.
tier one.
Absolutely.
No
Tier of
doubt
his own.
about it. But even last night, there were throws that he missed. But that's every quarterback. You're going.
He wins
to do
the game,
that.
you don't care.
Yeah.
MVS
You're
catches
going
that,
to
you
do
don't
that.
care.
I think there's many tiers at the top. Mahomes is in his own tier. Me personally, I know the turnovers are a problem, but I acknowledge the special talent that he is. I still have Joe Burrow and Josh Allen in a tier.
In a second
Yeah.
tier,
And
yes,
then
I
my
agree.
third tier would be Jalen Hurts and Lamar.
Yeah.
And then I probably have Justin Herbert
I'll
and
be honest, I have Lamar in that second tier. That's
That's
I think so,
fine. Yeah,
too.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
but-
I just Jalen Hurts from the start of last season to this point, it's very impressive what
No,
Jalen
I
Hurts has
agree.
done. He's won games. He was second in MVP last year. To this point right now, he's the favorite to win MVP if the season ended today, the betting favorite.
Is he really?
Leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns over that time, and he's been to a Super Bowl and outdueled the guy that we claim is the best in the
Yeah.
NFL. No
Yeah.
questions asked. He played better than him in the
That
Big
was one of the
Dance.
most ridiculous quarterback performances
Right.
I've
Yeah.
seen.
And obviously he had a mistake. He had a fumble that was very costly. But
only mistake
other
he
than
made.
other than
All
that, he played a
game.
near perfect game. A perfect game, not near perfect. He played a perfect game. Other than that, so that shit matters to me when I'm talking about this shit.
Yeah. So
Do I think we talk about it with basketball all the time. Basketball, it's kind of easier to point out what you're talking about between who am I taking talent wise and who am I taking when I'm ranking a guy. Basketball, we have those conversations all the time.
Yeah.
Talent wise, I think Anthony Edwards is this high, but because Anthony Edwards is young and has only been in the playoffs X amount of times, I have to have Anthony Edwards below Donovan Mitchell because I've seen Donovan Mitchell do it longer, but I personally do think Anthony Edwards is more talented. We could have those conversations easily.
Yeah.
But with football, it just becomes very tricky. It gets very tricky. The winning stuff becomes very tricky because, like we all know, you don't play both sides of the ball in football. A quarterback, his job is to throw the ball and call the plays and make sure everyone's in the best spot to succeed. But he's not catching the ball. He's not blocking. He's not calling the plays.
Yeah.
There's a lot of he's not obviously not on defense. There's a lot
Saw
more.
it with Mahomes last night. There's only so much you can do.
There's so many more external factors in football, so I think it gets a little tricky. My whole point is just, why can't we just be in the middle as a football community? Justin Herbert's very good. He's a top 7 at worst quarterback. That's the lowest you could put him, is 7 probably. You could put him 7, and that's it.
and that's not disrespectful.
And
at
who
all.
knows what
That's-
Rodgers has
And
left.
as
He'd be above him, too, though.
soon as Justin Herbert wins probably just one playoff game, I'll have different conversations.
Okay.
Just
No,
get
I
to
would-
the
I would
playoffs
agree,
and win
yeah.
a game.
Yeah, we ain't gonna.
The
see that,
talent's
bro.
there. It's just if I have to pick a guy to get me to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl, I'm gonna pick the guys that have gotten close or done it
I've
before.
already
You know what I
proved it to
mean?
you. Yeah.
So
No, I get it. I understand, and I get it. I get where you guys are coming from. I understand the Justin Herbert combo. I don't know. I'm just a massive. I'm someone that I will defend that man as much
Yeah.
as possible. I know there are flaws. I've seen it.
it's gonna pay off one day because he is one of the most talented
Yes,
players.
and I
I'm
know
a
there will
fan.
be.
Yeah,
I'm a
exactly,
fan.
exactly, yeah.
He's a great player.
There will be a day. There will absolutely be a day that I could finally stake my flag in the fucking Justin Herbert fan club and be like, yes, I said it, I called it. Finally, the day is here.
Yep.
But Until then, it's a lot of misery here.